afternoon. Good afternoon. I am Candace Smith-Tucker, and I am a board member with DC Refers, and I'm your host for today. I want to thank you for attending today's Reconnect session. I'm excited to bring to you our speaker today, but first I want to share some information with you about our organization. So DC Refers was started in 2017. Our mission is to increase access to justice for people of modest means. Lawyers can apply to join DC Refers if they have 2 years of experience, malpractice insurance, and are in good standing with the DC Bar, as well as if they have positive professional and client references. Lawyers can apply. DC Refers is a trusted source of referrals for clients of all income levels. You can refer, for example, a friend who needs a divorce lawyer to DC Refers. If they qualify for the reduced fee rates, then great. If not, they will be connected with a vetted lawyer who would charge their standard or negotiated rates. Referrals can come from many sources, as well as through social media, online searches, so you should send people our way. DC Refers helps with a wide variety of practice areas. We have nearly 30 lawyers and mediators on our online directory. You should follow us on social media and sign up to join our email list to receive our monthly Justice Link newsletter at dcrefers.org. And finally, we would love to hear from you. Send us your ideas for how we can better serve the modest means community in DC, and you can do that by emailing us at support@dcrefers.org. So now I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Ms. Erin Larkin. She was appointed as the first ever director of the DC Courts Access to Justice unit. In this newly created position, Ms. Erin Larkin is responsible for managing the daily access to justice operations, coordinating and promoting the delivery of access to justice services through the DC courts. This includes the development and implementation and monitoring of plans to enhance services, as well as identifying areas where access to justice gaps may exist and formulating approaches to close those gaps. In her new and expanded role with the court, she's responsible for overseeing the DC Court's new Justice Resource Center, which is a one-stop location to connect court users with legal assistance and social services to meet their related needs. Before joining the courts, Ms. Larkin had an extensive legal career serving as a policy attorney at the DC Coalition Against Domestic Violence and as a prosecutor in Massachusetts trial and appellate courts, where she clerked for the Connecticut Supreme Court. Ms. Larkin also previously served as a senior operations manager in the office of the clerk of the DC Superior Court. She has a proven track record. Ms. Larkin has volunteered for legal services in the community and was a member of the DC Court's Capital Pro Bono Honor Roll. She volunteered at the DC Bar Advice and Referral Clinic and served as a volunteer attorney negotiator for Family Court. Before returning to the District of Columbia in 2002, Ms. Larkin was a senior associate at the Boston law firm handling mass tort litigation in state and federal courts. Prior to that, she served as a prosecutor in the Massachusetts trial and appellate courts and clerked for the Connecticut Supreme Court. Ms. Larkin has demonstrated throughout her career a true passion for ensuring access to justice and a capacity for removing barriers court users might experience while participating in court proceedings and services. Ms. Larkin graduated from the University of Virginia with a double major in international relations and French and received a JD with high honors from the University of Connecticut School of Law, where she co-founded and was managing editor of the Connecticut Insurance Law Journal. Prior to law school, she worked in the U.S. House of Representatives as a legislative assistant and press secretary. And so with that, I want to welcome Ms. Erin Larkin.
Thank you, Candace, and thank you, Nancy, for inviting me to speak with you all today. So my name is Erin Larkin, and I'd like to introduce another person from my office who's joining us today, and her name is Jody Feldman. Jody, I don't know if you want to just come off there you go, and introduce yourself.
Hi, thank you, Erin. My name is Jody Feldman, and I'm the pro bono manager at the DC courts. And I'm also in a new position at the courts. I've been there about 1.5 years, but I'm the first person in the position. And I'm now part of the Access to Justice unit, and I focus on promoting and spreading the word in the legal community about the pro bono needs and opportunities at the DC courts. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. Let me pull up my PowerPoint presentation. Okay, can everybody see the presentation?
Yes.
Great. Okay. Oops. So the mission of the new Access to Justice unit is to advance the DC Court's strategic goal of ensuring access to justice for all by reducing barriers to full and meaningful participation for all court users. And the impetus for creating this unit and creating my position and Jody's position was really born out of the DC Access to Justice report that was done in 2019 that showed what we in the courthouse were seeing, but the crisis in the civil courts. And so if you look at some of the numbers up here on the screen from that report, it's showing you the rate of pro se parties in the various areas of the court, and the vast majority of them, vast majority of litigants in this civil cases, including in family cases, are unrepresented. So what that has created is we have this system that was created by lawyers for lawyers, but is primarily being used by everyday people. And how that impacts justice is that we see a lot of cases where there's an institutional plaintiff on one side who is almost always represented versus an unrepresented individual. And we see that in eviction cases and debt collection cases and child support cases. And then in other types of cases, neither party is represented. We see that in child custody and some probate cases. And what can happen there, especially in the child custody area, where the judge relies on the parties to fully develop a record so that the judge can make a decision that's in the best interest of the child. If both parties are unrepresented, then the judge's ability to make a good decision is compromised. So some of our Access to Justice unit strategies that the court is using, first of all, increase access to legal help. Number 2, we want to provide access to reliable, user-friendly legal information. Number 3, we want to ensure disability and language access. And number 4, we want to provide technology access, which is becoming more and more important. So how are we doing access to legal help? We have our pro bono program, which Jody Feldman is the manager of. And as she said, her goal is to promote pro bono opportunities here at the courts. And she also serves as a liaison between the legal services community and the legal community and the court. We also have another way we can try to increase access to lawyers is through the legal resource centers at the courthouse. These are actually managed by legal service providers, and that's where someone can come in and talk to a lawyer about their problem and get a referral for representation. We have legal resource centers in the probate division, in the family division, and in small claims. Another program we have at the court is our Court Navigator program. And this is where court staff help people find out where they need to go in court and what they need to do. They are currently operating in the probate division, in the small claims court, and in the landlord-tenant branch. Oh, and I forgot to mention there's a legal resource center in the landlord-tenant branch too. And then we also have 2 self-help centers. So we have one in the family court and we have one in the probate court. And these are places where a court user can come in and meet with what's called a facilitator, who is like a paralegal trained in that particular area of law and overseen by an attorney. And they can speak to the facilitator and get general legal information about the law, about court procedures. They can get help with filling out court forms, and then they can get referrals to attorneys and community services. One of the initiatives the court is working on is looking at ways to increase the type of legal help that is out there. And so the court created a civil legal regulatory reform task force. It's a bit of a mouthful, but this task force is charged with looking at expanding access to legal services by letting specially trained non-lawyers provide limited legal services in certain areas where we have these high rates of self-represented litigants, like family or probate or landlord-tenant. And some of you may have seen there was a survey that was sent out to all members of the DC Bar asking for feedback about what people think of this idea. It was also that similar survey was sent to the public to get the public's input on that. And if you'd like to learn more about the task force work, you can click on this link. And let me see I wonder if I could. I think we can, Nancy, could I share the PowerPoint afterwards? Or Candace? I think I'll share the PowerPoint, and that way everyone will have access to these links.
Yes, absolutely. We will send out an email afterwards with all kinds of information. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so the second prong is we need to increase access to legal information. And so one of the things the court is doing is we're involved in a website redesign, and that is to make our website more user-friendly. We're also, Jody had worked on creating a legal help webpage on our website, and that's the link to it right there. That has all sorts of legal resources for people. It's good for lawyers too. It has a list of all the various resources that are out there, and a list of legal service providers, and DC Refers is listed on that list. We have a couple other things where we collaborate with the legal community in the form of work groups that are looking at our court forms and how to make them more user-friendly. So we have work groups in the landlord-tenant branch, in the small claims branch, and in the family court. And we also are collaborating with the DC Access to Justice Commission on their self-help materials project. They just issued a report. There's a picture on the screen, and talking about the types of materials that are available out there about the law, about resources, whether they're manuals or guides or flyers or brochures or on the website, and trying to figure out a way to make sure all this information is consistent, reliable, and updated. So to find out more about that, you can click on the link and read the new report that was just issued in September of 2024. We also provide disability access to all court users. We recently started this year, we started with an online portal, so people can just request their ADA accommodation online, or they can contact the ADA coordinator by sending him an email, or there's the phone number for calling. And we also have an accessibility webpage that has a list of lots of different types of accommodations that are available at the court. I think our language access program is one of the best in the country. We provide interpretation services for court proceedings and events. And in general, in the past year, we do over 6,000 events in 50 languages. The court will also translate court forms, orders, notices, summonses, and informational material. We have information on the court's website and in our mobile app in multiple languages. We have signage throughout the courthouse in English and Spanish. And then we have bilingual Spanish-speaking employees at all of our public counters, and they have a pin on them identifying that they speak Spanish. And one of the things that folks might not know about is we have a registry of interpreters. These are all interpreters that have been vetted by the court, and they're listed on the court's website. If you go to that, the website that I have up there at the top, you can, that'll take you to the registry, and you can see if you need to hire an interpreter. This is actually a really great place where you could look for resources. And then something that is, ever growing in importance is access to technology. The court currently offers remote hearing sites in every quadrant of the city. And we have one of our court navigators meet a court user there and help them log on to the remote hearing and make sure everything's working. We have at the courthouse, if someone mistakenly shows up for their hearing and it's a remote hearing and they show up in person, we have some rooms in the court library where the library staff will help someone log on to the computer and be able to participate in their remote hearing. And then we have computers available for people to work on their cases. We have them in the civil clerk's office, in the family court self-help center, in the probate court self-help center, and in the court navigator's office. And then our new initiative is our Justice Resource Center. So this is going to be a one-stop shop to connect court users with legal, social, and government services. And it's going to be located right across from the Moultrie building. And it's going to be in the historic Recorder of Deeds building. That building has been vacant since 2008 when the Recorder of Deeds left that particular building. The schedule is, the plan is to have it open in 2027. And what the mission of the Justice Resource Center will be is to have it be a one-stop location where people can connect with legal, social, and government services to reduce barriers to justice and build stronger community through partnerships and coordination. Some of the areas where we hope to be able to connect people with services are, of course, legal services, housing, education, employment, physical health and behavioral health, food and material assistance, and vital access to vital records such as IDs, driver's licenses, and birth certificates. And the strategy for how we would provide these services is that we would conduct 4 core activities to help court users access these services. First, engage. So we provide information about how the Resource Center can help connect court users to services. Then we would screen them to identify their needs and which are the appropriate services, guide them on how to access the identified services, and then link them to on-site and off-site services. So that is a summary of our new Access to Justice unit and some of the court's Access to Justice initiatives. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
So maybe I could jump in here to get us started while people think about, Jody, what questions they may have for you. But let me just ask, how do lawyers that are interested in Lo Bono get involved, and what should they know?
So for that, I think I'm going to turn it over to Jody Feldman, our pro bono manager.
Thank you, Erin and Candace. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, for lawyers who are interested in Lo Bono, which I think is what I heard you ask, Candace, that DC Refers is the place to go. So if you are a small or solo practitioner and you're interested in offering services to the modest means community for a reduced fee, then you can contact DC Refers and talk with them about joining their panel. So that's the best way to provide Lo Bono work. If you want to provide pro bono work, then then there are a myriad of ways to get involved. First of all, folks are always welcome to reach out to me directly. I'd be happy to chat with you about what type of opportunities you're looking for and how best to connect you. There are dozens of legal services organizations in our community, and many of them provide pro bono programs. They screen and vet cases, refer cases to pro bono counsel. They'll provide training and mentoring. Some of the organizations even co-counsel. So it's really about trying to think about, what type of, is there a particular area that you have of interest or particular skills you're trying to develop, and sort of narrow down where best to connect you in terms of picking up pro bono cases. Does that answer your question, Candace?
It does. It does. Thank you. I'm not seeing any more, but I still have some, and I'll keep an eye on the chat as well. So,
Candace, could I, before
sure.
you move
Yeah.
on, Jody, could you talk about some of the activities that that we hosted for Pro Bono Week, and some that are, that some of the things at the courthouse that people can keep an eye out for?
You're muted, Jody.
I will do that. And I also, when I'm done speaking, I'll put a link in the chat to our pro bono page on the court's website. We host a variety of events throughout the year. We do regular, what we call open houses at the court, where we invite prospective or current pro bono counsel. We also have law students and others join us. We do a tour of a particular high volume division. So it could be landlord tenant or domestic relations or domestic violence. We have a representative from legal services organizations lead the tour. And we go through the court, and we answer questions, talk a little bit about the work and what's involved. And you have an opportunity to observe proceedings, as well as talk with some judges and hear from their perspective of why it's so important to have counsel where we can. So those are regular opportunities. We also host different events. We just started last month. October 29th was our first one. We did a Perspectives from the Bench webinar, and we actually co-counsel a lot of events with the Washington Council of Lawyers. So that was one of our events that we did through the Washington Council of Lawyers. And we'll be having 2 more events in the early part of 2025. And those are panel discussions with judges from different parts of the civil divisions of the court where more pro bono help is needed. And there are different topics. So we talked about some general needs at the first event, but the next event, we're going to be talking specifically about why folks who don't normally do litigation or are interested in litigation might still want to consider doing pro bono work in the DC Superior Court. So those are great opportunities to just interact with the judges and get some information from their perspective. And then we have plenty of other events. During Pro Bono Week, we did several open houses. We had judges speak on different panels. If you're at a larger organization and you would like to have a judge come and speak at your firm or organization about the importance of pro bono work and why we need more pro bono help in the DC courts, I can arrange that. So we're trying to do more and more events, and also trying to do events that that are tailored to your organizations. I see a hand up. Lisa, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, I just want to thank you. This is really great information, and I loved hearing about the new center at Deeds. That is, that's up and coming. I noted in the chat earlier, I'm the co-director of George Washington University's Paralegal Studies program. And I would love to, I guess, maybe hear briefly about how paralegals might get involved in helping at the various one-stop shopping places and other, or translation services, and also to talk to you offline about setting something up for our students to learn more about what they can do to help close this gap.
Thank you, Lisa, for that question. I will say that most of the opportunities do require, are for lawyers, not paralegals. Obviously, for paralegals who work at an organization where there are lawyers, whether it be a law firm or a government agency, there's plenty of opportunities for them to work together with lawyers on cases. But we do actually have a specific program that you do not need to be a lawyer to participate in. And we're actually going to be doing an information session about this, I hope soon after the new year. And it's called the Mental Habilitation Volunteer Advocate Program. And in short, the court oversees the cases of adults with intellectual disabilities who are living in community-based sites around the city. And the court is required to assign an advocate, not a legal advocate, a lay advocate, to monitor the care that the adult is receiving and report back to the court. So it's like a court adjacent project and a great way to learn about this particular area of the court and the legal work involved, but you do not need to be a lawyer at all. And so that's a great program that folks can get involved in anytime. I'd be happy to talk with you more about that offline, Lisa. But as I mentioned, we are going to be doing a big virtual information session, hopefully early in the new year, about that to try to recruit. Right now, we need about 30 new advocates for that program. So we have a lot of opportunity there.
So I'm seeing.
Great, thank you. That's what.
Thanks, Lisa. So I'm seeing two questions in the chat. One is from Dave. What is the best way for me to learn how to represent tenants?
Erin, do you want me to take that one too?
Sure. Yeah, you can take that one too.
If you'd like to represent tenants, there are several legal service organizations. There's actually 6 organizations throughout the community that primarily focus that do eviction defense work. Probably the places to contact would either be Legal Aid DC or the DC Bar Pro Bono Center. Both of those organizations are able to connect you with eviction defense cases and neighborhood legal services. I'm looking right at Karen, so neighborhood legal services program as well. The other organizations, Bread for the City, also has opportunities, and Legal Counsel for the Elderly. The 6th organization is Rising for Justice, and they actually use law students, not pro bono counsel, but all. So Legal Counsel for the Elderly, Neighborhood Legal Services, Legal Aid DC, Bread for the City are all organizations that do this work, and they will all provide vetted cases, training, mentoring for you to get involved. So that's the best way. And again, if that's too much information for this webinar, please don't hesitate to follow up with me afterward. I'd be happy to send you the information and links to all of those organizations.
Perfect. Thanks, Jody. There's just another comment. I'm not sure if you guys can see the chat, but there's another comment that says, thanks for the presentation, Erin and Jody. CourtView system does not have a workaround for CAPTCHA, which prevents the visually impaired from using the system.
So thank you for raising that. I wasn't aware of that, but I will definitely look into that and see why there isn't some sort of a workaround for the visually impaired. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention.
Thank you, Erin. I've already spoken with the ADA compliance officer, who says there just is no workaround. So
okay, I will. Yeah.
All right.
That's
Jody.
interesting. Yeah.
Jody, is there an email address that you can pop into the chat for Dave so that he can coordinate and get that additional information from you about those 6 organizations that you had mentioned? All right, let's see here. Moving along into the chat, another question. Does your team or someone continue to collect data? And is there a plan in place to release an updated 2019 report? And that's from Lisa.
So as far as collecting data, are you talking about data on self-represented litigant status, that type of thing, or?
Yes, just so
Okay.
that we can see whether the gap is narrowing, widening, what the efforts that we're doing here now, are they helping and how much? Yeah.
Yeah, so the court is actually currently working on being able to get that data. I mean, we have the data in our case management system, but the issue is trying to make sure we can pull it and make reports on it. But that is something that is a priority for our new unit, and so we're working on that. And then a plan in place to release an updated 2019 report. So that was done by the DC Access to Justice Commission. So I'd have to defer to them on if they have any plans for doing an update on that report. And I don't know of anything at this time.
Thanks.
I think this was more of a fun question for you, Erin. And that question is, what has surprised you thus far with your new role? Anything that you want to share with us?
Oh, sure. I would say, the court actually has a lot of good initiatives already in place. And so I think I was surprised in learning about all of them. I think one of the challenges and the reason that they created my position is to try to break down those silos that exist in the court so that there is more of one person who's, kind of looking at all of the initiatives from an access to justice lens. So, and then I love networking and meeting with people. And so that has been one of the things about this job that I absolutely love, is getting to know more people in the community and getting to know more people at the court. And everybody's has just been so receptive and so interested in talking about problem solving and collaborating. So that's been a really exciting part of this job.
Awesome. Another question here from Dave, which is, it seems like the court is extremely backed up. Is anything being done to address this?
Well, the number one thing that the court needs is they need to have the judicial vacancies filled. And as you all may know, those are appointed by the president and confirmed by the US Senate. So the court has been working on a judicial vacancy initiative to try to get the positions filled. I think that's the thing that that most impacts any sort of a backlog that happens at the court.
I'm going to follow up with you. I unmuted me, but I don't have video for some reason. I am here. How many vacancies are there? Do you know? I mean, are there numerous vacancies?
Yes, they are. I mean, the last time, it always changes. So I don't know that this is the most recent number, but it was at least, I think it was between 8 and 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 8
Yeah, that's
right now.
significant.
Is it
On
8 right
Superior-
now? Yeah.
On Superior Court, and I think it's 2 on the Court of Appeals.
Yes. So 2 on the Court of Appeals is really a significant percentage of their court. And there are 60 associate judges on DC Superior Court.
I'm just going to share that I put some links in the chat, but I can have, we can put these in a follow-up email as well. I put a link to the pro bono page on the court's website, which has my contact information and some other helpful information if you're trying to figure out how to get involved. And then there are 2 documents on that site that I also put the links into that I hope work. One is talking about sort of thinking about what your goals are for your pro bono work and help you narrow down what you might be interested in doing. And the other actually lists several organizations, including the 5 organizations that do eviction defense that I mentioned, that have links to those organizations and how to get involved with pro bono work through those organizations.
That's great. Thank you, Jody. I have another question here in the chat, and I'm not sure if this is a question for, and I would have to ask Nancy to maybe jump in with me if it's for DC Refers itself, but it says, is DC Refers on the list the court has in front of people when they are in family law court? And this is from Margaret.
So we do have DC Refers is currently on our website where we have our list of legal service providers. And then we do have a handout that we're about to roll out to the whole DC courts community that has a list of all the legal resources, and DC Refers is one of them. I actually used to be the manager at the Family Court Self-Help Center. And so we had that list of legal service providers that was created, I think, right in the middle of the pandemic. And DC Refers was one of them, the ones listed. And so that was something that I had trained the staff to, when they're handing out the list of legal service providers, you know, this is all the ones that offer their services for free. But if you don't qualify that, there are a couple of places where you can look for low bono or reduced rate services. And DC Refers is one of the ones there.
What I was talking about was when you're actually in court, sitting right there, which actually for me is sometimes annoying because I'm being paid as a private attorney, and they're saying, here, go get a free lawyer. But what I find, I represent a lot of fathers, and believe it or not, almost all of these legal aid, I don't know who's here from legal aid, but these legal aid places will not represent fathers. I get so many fathers who say that they were turned down, and it seems like basically because they're fathers. But right in front, as you're in court, you know, lawyer, client, there's a list right there. And I don't think DC Refers is on that. That's what I'm mentioning. I don't know if you'd want to try to get on there, because most of the fathers and some other people who probably have tried these other ones that are not going to accept them might want to use your services.
Thank you for that clarification. I will definitely follow up with the judges and find out what is the resource that they're handing out or have available for litigants in the courtroom, and make sure that DC Refers is on that one. I did want to address one thing you said, though, as far as trying to find representation for fathers. I assume this is in domestic relations cases. And if so, I know that Neighborhood Legal Services is one of the legal service organizations that does represent fathers. I mean, legal aid does too, but their program often will prioritize cases where there's domestic violence. But Neighborhood Legal Services will represent fathers, and also Rising for Justice will represent respondents in civil protection order cases.
Yeah, and actually Legal Aid and DC Bar Pro Bono Center also represent lots of fathers in domestic relations cases.
What was that last one?
Sorry, DC Bar Pro Bono Center and Legal Aid DC, also DC Affordable Law Firm. I think most of the providers that do you know, domestic relations work do provide service to fathers. So it's not nothing specific to fathers, but as Erin mentioned, you know, many of the organizations do prioritize assisting survivors of violence. So to the extent there is a gender, you know, component to that, that may be some of the challenge.
Well, it may be, but in the cases I have, my clients are not violent, and so the mother is not a survivor of violence. And also, I find some of them taking mothers that are making fairly good salaries. Somehow they manage to get around that one too. It is. I mean, of course, a lawyer is expensive for anybody that has 3 or 4 children and maybe not making a whole lot of money. But then the father may be in much worse circumstances, and he can't get a lawyer. He has to go pay for a lawyer as best he can, you know. And these places say, and they may take, but probably the percentage is extremely low. I don't know. I'm just telling you my experience. It may be only my experience.
And I think you touched on one of the things that we see in DC, but also throughout the country, and that is the number of people who are able to access a legal services lawyer for free. The funding just isn't there in order to staff up those programs to be able to provide a lawyer for everyone who needs one.
Can I just add also on that topic, Margaret, I don't know if you're familiar, but there is at the court a child support resource center that is staffed by Legal Aid DC and Bread for the City. And that program specifically focuses on serving respondents in child support cases. So the people who are trying to reduce their child support obligation due to a change in circumstance or income, or someone who is incarcerated and needs to file a motion to stop or suspend payments. They also have been successful in getting rid of arrears in some instances. So that is also a great resource for respondents in child support cases.
Oh yeah, where are they located at the court?
They are in, I want to say it's courtroom. I'll look it up when I'm stopped talking, but it's right on the first floor. Or sorry, it's right on the JM level in one of the courtrooms. I think it might be 13B. It's in the ante room of one of the courtrooms. It's across the hall and a little bit down from the from the Family Court Self-Help Center. And they are there every day from 9 to 3. There's also a phone number that people can call if they're not in court or able to come to court.
Yeah, that is really important because if anybody has trouble paying a lawyer, it's those people.
Absolutely.
All right. Not seeing any more questions in the chat. I do want to thank Erin for coming and speaking with us today and sharing the information that you've shared. Want to wish you well in this new position that you're in, and we're sure that you'll have your hands full. Jody, thank you so much for participating as well. I did want to, as we close out, just share that we will be doing. Yeah, I want to make sure I get the slide right here. Our next DC Refers Reconnect on January 16th. And it's going to be on fee agreements for low bono clients, featuring Virginia Kling and Sonale Catalakar. They are on our panel, and we would love to have you all register and attend to, just to continue to get this information that we want to provide and get out into the community. There's a registration link that I've put in the chat, so please register, and we will look forward to seeing you at our next event. So everyone, thank you so much for attending today.
Thank you.